Well, welcome back to Footballin with Ben Roethlisberger. My name is Spence, and as always, I am joined here with two-time Super Bowl champion Ben Roethlisberger. Look at that.
I forgot which camera was mine. It's been
Right.
so long.
You did the silent, just so the people on Spotify didn't hear you look into their
right.
soul.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
There you go.
All you listeners.
Hey, man.
You nervous?
It is a little weird. It feels a little jittery. It's been, 6 months, 7 months? What month is this?
I think we're still in August.
8 months? It's been 8 months. I actually don't. I was thinking about that today when I was setting it up. I have no idea when the last episode of Footballin aired, which means we shot it even before that.
Yeah.
It's been a while. I know, guys, thanks for staying with us. It's been a while since we've done this. We're going to get into all that today. It's been a while since we've
abruptly stopped.
We know. We know. We are excited to be back. We're actually really excited to share why we abruptly stopped, share what we have planned for the future. We're super stoked about that. We're going to dive into all of that in a second. But I think before we do that, Ben, it's important to introduce the Footballin family
Right.
to the man sitting to your left. Do you want to do it?
Yeah, I can do it if you want. Yeah, it's this is I think one of the, as you just said, Spence, we've got a lot of cool new things planned for the future of footballing. A show that we truly weren't even sure we were gonna. We were pretty much done, I think, doing this.
Yeah.
We were going to do a last show to tell you all that, and then some things happened, and we'll tell you about that. But since then, we've decided to bring it back for a third season, hopefully better than ever. We'll try at least, but it's going to be different. There's going to be a lot of similarities, hopefully some new, unique things, and one of the biggest things is bringing a new family member into the Footballin family, and that's my good friend, author, podcaster, father, husband, just a good Christian man, the creator, designer, owner, all that of the Dad Tired family, Jared Lopes. Welcome to Footballin and this family.
I imagine that the anticipation, how long you took to build that up, you just disappointed so many people right now. They're just like, gosh, who is it? Who is it? And it's like, who the heck is this
Eric?
guy?
You're going to give the company to Eric. Yeah.
But you guys have seen on this show me wear the Dad Tired stuff, and that's because of Jared and all the amazing things that he does with being a man of God, a father, a husband, all that stuff. So just some cool stuff. So we're excited to have you as part of the family.
Yeah, man. It's weird being at this table. Obviously, I've been watching you guys from afar for a long time and seeing everybody sit here. I feel honored to be here, man. Don't feel like I'm able to live up to sitting in this seat.
No, well, your podcast is more like professional. This is not professional.
Okay.
This is like what it would be like if we were just sitting here with no cameras. This is how this thing started. For those of you that are new to this, it started with Spence and I sitting down here talking about life and talking about football. I mean, really just literally everything.
Yeah. Well, I think that's like, as we're talking about moving it, like the future football, and there is a future. We're super stoked to be back, and we do have a lot of plans for this show and plans for the season, obviously. But
like the Steelers, though, we don't know what our plans are going to include, right? Like the Steelers aren't sure. Their roster cuts are coming, but anyway, go ahead, sorry.
I do think, sidebar, I do think they just made some today. I didn't look at
They
them.
made first cuts came today.
Did they? Okay.
Yeah, so.
Always a tough day. Either way.
Day.
But for the future football, I think when you're talking about sitting down, talking about life, that's really what we set out to do at the beginning. But footballing at the beginning, I think when we first started, was like, we don't know what this is. We don't know if it is anything. But we knew that the kind of the beer sampling and the chopping up with life, that was something that we wanted to share with people that followed you through your entire career. And so it turned into this beautiful thing that we've got to share with you guys for so long. And we appreciate your guys' support and sticking with us through the kind of turbulence of our posting schedule. And but like Ben said earlier, we didn't know that we wanted to keep doing it, but moving forward,
We weren't done. We were done. Yeah. Let's be honest. We're sorry to break it to y'all. We were done. We were done.
I was gonna say that. Like as a fan of just watching you guys, it was we're watching weekly or however often you guys would post randomly post. And then all of a sudden it stopped. So I was like, I think there's a lot of people, you know, obviously I know you guys, but I think there's a lot of people who are like, where'd you go?
And there have been a lot. Like I've gotten a lot of like, you know, if you travel someplace, someone will be like, hey, when y'all doing the show? When y'all coming back? What's next? And this, that, and the other. And I was just kind of like, you know, I'm not really sure because it truthfully wasn't sure what we were going to do. So yeah, there was, you know, we've got a lot of really loyal fans. I say our fans worldwide. We do have fans all over that watch us, but millions around the world.
I was in South Carolina and I was watching. So I mean, from way far
Big
away.
time.
Yeah.
Big
What
time.
happened though? Like why did you guys stop?
It is important to share that, man. So as Ben said, we got to the point, if we were honest, when we were live streaming toward the end of Footballin', where we didn't really have fun doing it anymore. Like it did feel like
a job.
It started to feel like a job, and it was.
I shouldn't say not fun because we
was
had fun.
We fun when we were doing it.
Yeah, when we were doing it.
We were sitting here and we were chopping it up, especially when we were live streaming because we actually got to talk to the audience, and that was awesome because we do this in a void, like we're down here in Ben's basement. But it got to the point where like we would always ask. We'd be like, hey man, you sure you want to keep going? But it started off as a hobby. We had no plan to do it. It wasn't like. I think how a lot of people start podcasts and they're like, yo, let's start a podcast to build it, to scale it, and it be the thing. Right. It was just a hobby. Like he didn't need another job. He had just retired, right? So it had as little thought into it as it seemed. You know what I mean? Like we weren't out here brainstorming. We just learned what a production meeting was today. And man, would that be helpful? But yeah, so we got to that point. My wife and I were expecting our second daughter. We found ourselves in a situation where our youngest daughter was born with kidney failure, holes in her lungs, and for the next or the following 2 months after that, we were fighting for her life. And that's a story that like I'd love to share more of, just to expound on it, because it really was a reason where like. Nothing else, Matt. We weren't about to go talk about football.
Forget about it.
Yeah.
And that, no disrespect to the fans, but like it as you know, it's as a family man with kids and stuff. That's what this show is: faith, family, football. I mean, those were the orders, and family was there, and it was just like. I think he might like for all you like loyal fans out there. Like I think at one point Spence might even said, "Hey, are we gonna try and end do a final show?" And I'm like, "Dude, be quiet. Yeah, don't like." I want to smack him in his mouth. Like don't even. Are you kidding me? That is. Don't even put that on your mind. And it shows like the friend, the work, like what he wants to do when he starts something. He wants to want to do it. And I was like, no, man, don't even talk about that. We got more important things to worry about. And so that's kind of why it just was like, we're not even, because you said like, let's just do a quick show to let people know what's going on. I'm like, no, they don't need to know what's going on right now. Yeah. Let's go take care of this first.
You were very adamant in that, because it was, man, the situation with my daughter got it was rough. At week 20, we went in for the anatomy scan, 20 weeks pregnant. And they found that my daughter had what they call echogenic kidneys, which basically on the ultrasound, they glowed. Right, and that was an indication that they either weren't working properly or there was something in like a cyst or a mass or something like that. They also couldn't find her nasal bone, and they measured her femur short, which one of those is an indication of Down syndrome. So two of them almost was like a sealed deal, right? And so they did genetic testing to just kind of confirm it, right? And so that was the day of our gender review. And so I remember we did. So we got that news. Obviously we're devastated that there could potentially be health problems with our daughter. Right, we ended up going to a gender reveal that our small group kind of put on. And we were there, and we just kind of broke down in tears and asked for prayer, and that's kind of led on this journey. And that weighed a lot too on when we were doing the show all through that, because I would probably say from October till January, like I was super depressed. Like I don't know if you could tell on this show, like because we were working, and we do this for you guys to enjoy it. Like it's entertainment. We want to give you a break to kind of from your lives. But it was just like to the point where like like we were fighting to do the show. It was nice.
You were depressed going into during the pregnancy?
Yeah, bro. Like I was like rock bottom, like
Really?
early.
Nobody would know.
No.
No one
That
would know.
having to do with pregnancy, or had nothing to do?
Just life, dude. Yeah, the pregnancy didn't help.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But just
Got a young one. I mean, you know how it is. Got a young one at home.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
It's just a lot of things.
yeah, dude. So it was heavy, man. So super depressed.
But
Then,
sorry to camp
no,
on this.
go ahead.
The reason I'm camping on it is because I think a lot of dudes maybe feel that, but would never say it.
Yeah. No, and we don't, bro. Like I didn't. I mean,
Yeah.
I shared it with you. Like I think
But
it is.
it did take you a little while to share with me. Like I don't think, because I think probably is, and I don't want to speak for you, but I think sometimes as men, and you probably have more experience with this doing the stuff that you do, but like it's like, okay, I feel something, but I can handle it. Like I'm gonna get this fixed. I'm good. I don't need to go to someone the first time I feel like a little bit of depressed. Like that's not like I don't need to do that, but you know, it's, and maybe you don't the first day, but if it's lingering, I'm sure at some point you got to go. And which to your credit, you did. You know, you've talked to me. I'm sure you talked to other people, but you didn't let it fetch. But even that, like, it doesn't just go away. Just because you talk to someone.
I think a lot of dudes are like super sad and lonely, and those words have become like feminine. You know, so we would never say like I feel sad.
Yeah.
Like when's the last time you heard a dude say I feel sad? You know, like it just doesn't happen. Anyway, I didn't mean to harp on it, but I'm just it's interesting because I think a lot of guys might feel that and not know how to put words to it.
Yeah, and I think it's important the distinction to make, man, because I think like that journey that did impact the footballing audience to an extent to where like we were out, you know, like you just didn't know where we went. Like, but when we got rushed in for the emergency C-section, like we were told multiple times, I'm like, yo, she's not gonna make it. You know what I mean? Like multiple times, bro. Like that, she's not gonna make it, man. Your daughter's not gonna make it. Like, and if she does make it, yo, I don't know how long that she's gonna have, man. So we were staring down the barrel of like legitimately having to prepare yourself for a parent's worst nightmare, and like there's no preparation. There's nothing you can do to prepare yourself to begin to think about experiencing that. You know, and so when it's thrust upon you, you know, you're trying to do what you can. So from that, we were the first week of her life, man. It was fighting for her life, man. We were told on a number of occasions, like this is it. I mean, I remember calling you and Ashley into the hospital because Ashley is a medical professional, like that's what she did for a living, and I'm like, hey, I need some clarity. Right? Part of me was like, I'm gonna start crying the first episode back. Sorry guys. Part of me was like, yo, I need big bro. And then part of me was like, Ash, can you tell me what they're saying?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I have no idea.
And we went in and sat, Ashley, me and Ash, and I was there for the intimidation factor.
Yeah. we brought in security.
No, you know, but seriously, like, just like, okay, y'all know, because sometimes, you know, like doctors and listen, we're not going to, as Spence is going to tell a story, like we are not here to bash any medical professionals. You know, everyone's got a job to do.
Yeah.
And so, but sometimes, you know, doctors like to use big words and tell you things and confuse you and like, you know, and so that's why I think they wanted Ash to come in because she can understand some stuff.
Right.
And I was going to be the one to be like, hold on, like English?
Yeah,
Please,
right,
because
right.
Ashley's still going to be using the big words.
Right.
But we just sat, the four of us, him and his wife and Ash and me, and then there were like 3 or 4 doctors, and I mean like some, you know, people in there, and we sat in that like a private little a private little room, and just like Ash would be like, well, what about this? What about this? And was really like the point of what I think they wanted Ash to do, and I think what she did a great job of was like asking the questions that you would, as a parent, would never think of, because
Advocate
it's like
for me.
yeah. It's like I can't even right now think,
Right.
so I don't know what to ask.
Right.
And so I think Ash did a great job of like just trying to get some understanding. Wait, hold on, tell me, like, why? Well,
Right.
what about this? Well, what about this? And
Right.
I think it helped them to get
100%,
some clarity,
dude.
you know, and some
Yeah.
understanding.
Well, dude, and it's the loneliest time I think I've ever felt in my life. I literally had the doctor say to me, it's time. You need to call your wife, right? And I was like, what?
Meaning, like he was telling you,
she's
say
dying.
goodbye to
She's
your
dying.
baby.
She's dying. Yeah, she's like everything she's on. She had chest tubes to get air out of her lungs or out of her chest cavity because it was leaking air. She was on all kinds of medications. She was on a oscillator, which is the highest end of ventilation to help her breathe. And they're like, and then they found that morning, they found what they called free air in the abdomen cavity. And what they said was that can only be there if there's a hole in the intestine. And if there's a hole in the intestine, she needs a surgery, but it can't happen at this hospital. She needs to go to that hospital. However, she's not stable enough to transfer to that hospital.
The hospital is
I
less than a mile
remember
away.
you specifically sending us a text like about that situation. Yes. I didn't even know, for context, I didn't even know you. I'd never even met you. For the listener, right. For somebody who's watching, like, but Ben was sending texts like, dude, pray for this exact situation. Like, we need to get her to a hospital a mile away.
Yeah.
And so
literally a mile.
Yeah, and so that was tough, man. And that I remember calling you guys again, and we brought, I remember FaceTime my mom to meet her before she died, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and you guys came in to say goodbye.
Yeah.
Like, we were,
and then that was one of the craziest. I mean, it felt like, it's crazy you say like 4 days later. I'm like, wait, what? It felt like it just was like, to think back on it. But, you heard Jared say, like, when this happened, when this kind of was going down, obviously, like, we've got an awesome village, like our small group, and then there's some others that are outside our small group that are like just our close, our village. Like, right. I mean, awesome prayer warriors. Some pastors were at the hospital. There were some people that just were like, we're not leaving. Like, we're leaving work. Like, I don't care about work. And I remember being like, man, I got to get a hold of some like prayer warriors, and that's when I sent you a message and Micah, put y'all on a message together. Yeah. And then Bart and Jason and Bia were on a group, and so I just remember like sending updates, like, here's what's going on. Right. And literally, and that's funny you say like you had never even met him yet. Like, that's it's crazy to think of that. But every day, y'all would, like, somebody would send me a message like, update, and I'd be like, don't have one. Right. I'll keep you updated. Next day, someone else, update. I'm like, I don't have an update. Like, to the point where I'm like, hey, I'll let you, like almost stop like texting me, but because I'm like, I don't have an update. Like, I was frustrated too with it. I wanted an update, but it just shows the power of like prayer, community, and this, that, and the other, because y'all were like on it every day, and not just you guys. I mean, there were a lot of people praying for that little girl, but I mean, I remember being in that in the waiting room, and just came in and gave you a big hug, man. And I want to say this too, for not that I'm a professional and give like professional advice, but I'll say this to like not just men but people out there. Sometimes when you don't know what to say to somebody because they're grieving or they're going through something, don't say it. Don't try and look for words if it doesn't feel right. Sometimes just a hug, just silence. Yeah. Like, I think sometimes we get caught up when someone's like going through something or grieving or they have an issue. We want to have the perfect thing to say. Yeah. And I think sometimes we say things and it's not like it's usually not the perfect thing to say. Yeah. Whether we screw up, we might say, now there might be a time you say something that someone really needs to hear. Sure. But like I forgot, I walked in that like waiting room because no one was allowed to back and see her. Yeah. I mean, Kiala couldn't even go back and see her. Yeah. And I remember giving you a hug, and I was like, what? Like, I need to say something, but I was like, man, no, I'm just gonna hug you.
Nah, dude. Yeah.
And so I just encourage people, like, sometimes if you not saying anything is saying a lot. Yeah.
100%. And if you can, cook. When you don't know what to say, just cook something.
I think that to that point, I think probably when I've been in bad spots, somebody just saying like, I don't know what to say, but I'm here for you. Yeah. Well, that's like power presence. That means more than anything.
The power of presence is so underrated, man, because it's silent. You know what I mean? But in that moment, bro, it was everything we needed. Like, it was like, hey, we don't know how heavy this is gonna be, but we're here to pick it up when we have to. Yeah. And it was, I mean, we shut down the left wing of that NICU with the amount of people we had in there. It was to the point where they were putting, and this is probably illegal, so sorry, but whatever. I don't work there. But they were like just putting us in empty rooms. Like, because we were crowding the hallway. Like, hey, man, this is a hospital. You can't be doing this. I'm like, oh, listen, I'm not concerned about any of that. But it was to the point where, like, we had to get her to this children's hospital. We're trying to get her to children's hospital, which I will say this. I want to take time to give flowers. I go to wide, so you can't see me cry. Thank you guys, man. Children's hospitals are the greatest. They're
awesome.
It's a building filled with a parent's worst nightmare, and the people there are the absolute best. From the people at the front desk to the people in the cafeteria, like we lived there for 2 months.
Literally.
Literally, I slept on the couches that you could improve those. But set in the couches in the room, and we lived there for 2 months. And from our nurses, man, like Chloe, Kara, I'm going to forget people, but these people that like were our family, man, Ronnie, thank you so much. Amanda, you guys are the best. Absolute best, but we had to get her to that surgery. And I remember at the other hospital, which I won't air out just because of my experience there, they were saying, yo, she could make it, but she would have to survive the transfer, survive the surgery to heal that up, all right, and then get back to what we're doing here. And she's at the most support possible, and they're not going to do anything that we can't do here outside of the surgery, but she's probably not going to survive this. But there's a shot.
So come say bye.
Yeah, so come say bye.
They came and I'll give you a little break because I'll do my time to cry.
Yeah.
So that's when Spence came and grabbed Ash and I to go say goodbye. Because as the godparents, like, okay, we're allowed. I think they must have allowed us to come back or whatever, just to basically say goodbye.
I just didn't, honestly, I didn't think anybody was going to kick you out. Because legit, no lie, like we went to go bring our oldest daughter back to meet her before she left, and they're like, oh, she can't come back there. And my wife, who deserves all of the praise in the world throughout this situation. You're talking about updates. She did that in the midst of that. She was doing that after a C-section. She carried our family through this. One of the nurses was like, oh, absolutely not. She can't go back there. And the look and my wife. Now, my wife kickboxes for a living. I'm like, this would have been a short fight, folks. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh my, I'm going to have to get my wife about to get arrested. My wife about to get arrested today. But it got to the point where it's like, hey, I'm going back there. Call who you need to call.
Yeah.
Right. But so when you got back there, you weren't allowed back there either, I don't think.
Yeah,
I don't know the laws, but.
But so Ash and I went back there to say goodbye, and you walked into the room and you saw the tubes, all the breathing, all the. I mean, it's really hard. Like it is, it's like I'm not a fan. I mean, I understand what hospitals do. I'm not a fan of going to hospitals is hard because it's especially for kids, man. That's just it's so hard to see kids when like that. And so we were in the other room, like we're in a private room with like our pastors and some people, not a lot of people, but there were some people there that just didn't want to leave. And I remember because we were just like, okay, I think we had to get your mother-in-law on the flight, trying to get her on the phone. Like there's just a lot going on. I mean, and I remember Ash and I talking to one of our very good friends who's a pastor and being like, I've never told you, so I don't know if I should say this, but was like, we were like, how do we help with like, what's next? Yeah. As in like what does that look like for a little kid? Right. Like I don't, like having that conversation. Yeah. Because I wanted to be there for him. Right. So that he didn't have like the least amount of things he had to do possible. And so, and then I'll never forget, like, we're like sitting there, like getting teary eyed, and we're like, Ash and I are just sitting there, like, man, this is the worst conversation to ever have with anybody. And then I'd never forget, like, either you or your wife came like back and were like, hey, or sent I forget how it happened, but all I remember was like, somebody said, hey, keep praying. Yeah. Because something's crazy. It's like something's happening right now. And we're like, what? Like, that's all we got was like, let's do this. And we're like, what do you mean?
Give me some answers, man.
Yeah. And it just was like, and they just kept sending messages like, hey, man, like they took her off this and she's still breathing. Yeah. Like, keep going. And we're like, man, look, this is crazy. So. Yeah, man, because it got to the point where like, hey, she's either going to definitely die from infection and sepsis, or you can try to transfer her to a ventilator that will transport. But she probably won't. I mean, we were encouraged, like legit. Again, I'm not trying to air people out, but this is how it went down. Like we were legit encouraged to just shut the machine off so we can hold her before she died. Jeez. You know what I mean? And so, but I got. because y'all hadn't had a chance to hold her, right?
I didn't hold her for the first. No.
Yeah, because of the machine. I mean, you couldn't even. She was in like a.
Man.
Breathing.
She was in a medically induced coma, dog. You know what I mean? Like she was paralyzed. Like it was. So, and so, this is like the first bedrock of my faith, man. So like, and it was kind of a foreshadowing, to be honest with you. I felt at week 20 when I was telling you about that. I remember praying in my house, and I felt like God told me she'd be fine, and I didn't know what that meant. But I felt like He said that. Right? Turned out like when she was born, she did not have Down syndrome. Her femur were her kidneys weren't, but nasal bone was there, all that stuff. And so I thought that's what that meant. But that was something that I held on to this whole thing. And so I shared that with somebody, and I remember them asking me, like, how did you know that that was God that told you that?
Right.
How'd you know God said you'd be fine? And there's two answers to this that I've come to realize at this point, at this stage in the game. Is the theological answer is the more time you spend with God, the more familiar with his voice you will become. Mm-hmm. And there's the practical answer, which played out in my life, which is I didn't know that that was God's. I believed it to be God's based upon what I remember his voice sounding like, right? And so what I did then was ushered my reality. I had a responsibility of this miracle, to make the decisions to put me in an opportunity for that to be true. I can sit on this side of the fence because I'll ruin the story for you guys. She's 7 months old today. Happy, healthy.
Beautiful.
Yeah, big old chunky baby.
She was talking to me last night over here at dinner. She was a lot of spit and gurgles and bubbles. But she was telling me about her fingers and all that stuff. I could tell. I could tell. What she was saying.
That's because she's like, Uncle Ben, that's my snack buddy, right?
Yeah.
He's gonna give me cheese
That's right,
sticks.
whatever snacks you need.
But I didn't know. I believed it, and then I made and I had the responsibility to, in faith, say, God, if it's true. That means you're either, so you had to anchor it in the fact that God is good, and he would provide us evidence of that either by answering what we're asking him to do, which is to spare our daughter's life, or comforting us in the loss, right? Either giving us the grace to endure, or, let me spend her life with her, right? Either way, it's evidence of him being good.
Jeez.
Right? And so I made the decision, man, which is heavy, and I think I've really only shared this with you, which was heavy for me, man, because I had to make the decision to take her off of the thing that was sustaining her life to try to transfer her for hopes for the surgery. And I remember thinking, like, God, I don't want to do this. I don't want to make this choice, because if I do and it flatlines, that's my fault now, bro. And you can justify however you want, but I remember sitting in the moment thinking that. And so the text that you're talking about is we got her, they transferred her off, and I remember sitting there, waiting for all the machines to stop, and they didn't. And her numbers improved drastically, and it was really weird, dude. In the room, one by one, all the people that were doing the transfer just looked at the monitor, and one by one just walked away. Like, it was a weird moment, man.
Sorry, I'm gonna interrupt your story, but like, the two things I want to say about that, they kind of go together, is like when I and Ash and I talked about this, like even last night, when we had to have that conversation about what's next, like, looking back on it now, especially, it was like, man, shame on us for like lack of faith. But it's like and again, you hear medical doctors, like, this is it.
Right.
You only can go off what they say, but like, shame on us for lack of faith, which is, it's hard, but it's like,
I hear you, and I appreciate your sentiment, what you're saying, but my wife and I had that same thought.
Well,
so
yeah.
like,
that's all you hear from,
right? Yeah.
Don't
So,
know any better.
But my thing is, like, I don't know. That's a lack of faith. I think that's being a human being.
Yeah.
And you didn't know, right? And what you were trying to do was love your friends.
Yeah.
So I get that, like, give yourself grace in that. You know what I mean?
But,
like,
yeah. But so then the other thing I want to say is, as you continue your story, because it goes along with what you just said, and I told you this, that as these doctors and nurses are walking away from this girl who, like, shouldn't still be, like, as they're one at a time, like, that little girl at like 5 days old, probably 3 days old, but literally every day in the hospital, she was influencing and bringing people to Christ more than most human beings, adult human beings, do in their lifetime. You're like, what do you mean? Like, the fact that people were like, that she shouldn't be she shouldn't be alive. Like, the only reason she's alive is because God has her alive.
Right. I think what you said, man, like, I don't want people to miss what you said about God's goodness either way, because there's going to be people who are just naturally skeptical about everything, and they're going to be like,
that's me, dog. What you talking about?
Yeah, so they're going to just be like, yeah, but it worked out for you.
100%. And I think,
and what if it does? It didn't work out for me. It didn't work out for my family. It didn't work out for my friend. You know what I mean? So
100%.
God, it sounds like God was good for you, but he's not good for me.
That 100%. And I really haven't shared this story, because I think when I do, I want the space to tease out the realities of it, because there are a lot of we got one of those dumb miracles they write movies about, but it never happens like the movies in real life. Like we can sit here 7 months with our daughter, and we still have a long road, dude. She is going to end with a kidney transplant. I'm going to have to bring a 2-year-old in to do that. We're still fighting back dialysis. We're still medicated. Like, I have to fill bottles with medicine. Like, just recently, I had to stop giving her a shot. Like, giving your child a shot is heartbreaking every single time. But the reality of it is, if you don't anchor first in the goodness of God, then everything is circumstantial, bro. Everything. Well, he's good if. He ain't good if. He's good. And he'll prove that through the grace to endure the broken nature of the world that we cause with our rebellion, or he'll do some dumb stuff, right? Just because we aren't getting what we want doesn't make him ungood, bro. And if you don't start there in tragedy, I mean,
You
in
say
life,
what we want?
if we want, when we don't get what we want. What?
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Just because we don't get what we want, don't make.
wants.
Right.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Not
So
what he wants, but we
if you don't start there, right? If you don't anchor in the fact that he is good, right? Then and broken stuff happens, bro. Broken stuff happens. This world broke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so the grace to endure is still a beautiful evidence of God's goodness, man, because the reality of it is, this is a very extreme situation with me and my family. The reality of it is that there are things much lesser as far as like the extreme that I probably couldn't endure without the grace of God. The reality of it is, bro, you know what I mean? Like I've caused stuff to myself that God's given me the grace to endure.
Right.
Right. So moving forward, this man, because I do want to get into more stuff, and there's just so much of this that like we can dive into, in the future as well, because there's so many.
It's an ongoing story.
Yeah, and I think God's doing more and more stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Real quick, have you guys seen? Do you guys watch Chosen?
I haven't
What's
watched.
the first,
I've
like,
seen
2 seasons? We
like
kinda stopped.
clips, but I don't.
Yeah,
watch
it's really good. But in this last season, they did a whole episode on basically like Jesus not doing miracles.
Yeah.
And people were just like, "What? You could heal this person like right now. Why are you not?" And it really addresses that. Like, is he still good if he doesn't do what you want him to do?
Yeah.
But I just watched that the other night.
I love Jared, come on and leave a cliffhanger. Right, you know what I mean? Like, leave a cliffhanger. Like, yeah. So anyway, check that out.
Anyway,
That's so funny. Yeah. So we ended up getting to Children's Hospital. They get her in. They perform the surgery. Turns out, and this is another, like, I don't have time to say all these ridiculous miracles. Like, we're still asking for some, but we have like 47, like, of the stupid ones, right? And there was no hole. They cut her open. They were going there to do a surgery on her intestine to cut out the part of her intestine that was perforated, and then seal it back up so she didn't die of infection. They go in and they open her up. What they call is run her intestine. Where they go through and they search for it. Nurse practitioner Amanda, who is an absolute gem, and she goes like, "Hey, I don't know how to explain this, but there's no hole in the intestine." It's like she looked white as a ghost when she came in. I was like, "Oh God, that's not good." And she told us that. And then my wife was such a thug. She goes, "Amanda, I don't know if you're a Christian, but you about to be." I was like, "Hey man, be careful." But it was just thing after thing, and it wasn't everything worked out. Like, my daughter had 60 X-rays, 7 chest tubes, 2 blood transfusions, and 2 surgeries. And
10 billion holes in her from needle shots, pokes, and pricks.
And sometimes that's what a miracle looks like.
Yeah.
You feel me?
I used to get so mad at Spence the first time that they came to church, because we sit like in church, we kind of sit in the back, right, a little bit, because I'm tall, I don't want to block people.
Yeah.
How so thoughtful.
And Spence and them. I remember it was like the first or second time that y'all brought her in to church. Like, everyone, people wouldn't, like, at church and pray, everyone knew about it, right?
Right.
So, but they were sitting back there, and I remember that we heard like Ollie was like crying, like you could hear. And listen, she's like not very crying as a that's not even a word. She's not crying, but you can hear her like
whimpering.
And they're back there like, "Oh my goodness!" So I'm like, "Shut up! Like, let that baby scream! Like, you don't realize like her lungs are not like even developed. Like, let that baby." Like, we would be smiling. Ashley and I'd be sitting with our family, like all sitting there, like smiling and crying, hearing her cry.
Yeah, knowing the backstory.
Yes,
Like,
and they're back to like, "Oh, we're so sorry." I'm like, "No, Spence, put that baby in the front row and let
Give
her
her a
cry." Yes.
Yeah, it turns out you need lungs to do that.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm like, you cannot be mad about a girl that's got the it was such a awesome
Yeah,
sound.
100%. And so like it was thing after thing after thing. And I think one thing that I would love to hit, before we move on with this is like, it's so easy in the medical profession to negate the humanity of the people involved in it. And what I mean by that is like these people are confronted with disaster. The people that work in these hospitals and stuff are confronted with like the toughest parts of humanity day in, day out, to where I think in order to stay sane, you kind of have to get numb to it. And in doing that, an unfortunate consequence is negating the humanity of the patient. And then what happens is the patient negates the humanity of the caretaker, and not realizing like they have to go home and maybe make dinner for the family. They have to go home. They're someone's wife, they're someone's husband, they're someone's daughter, they're someone's mom, right? And so it was one of those things when me and my wife very early on were like, you know what? If we're gonna live here, like we're gonna move in. Like not bring our stuff. We're gonna bring us in here. And I held on to this principle of like, I don't feel stuck here. I feel sent here. And we made a dangerous effort to acknowledge the humanity of the caretakers. And all of the sudden, what you began to see in that is room 867, and that's how they tell the patient, oh, you need to go to 86. Turned into Ollie's room real quick. Ollie's my youngest daughter's name, and it turned into real quick. And then all of a sudden, you had nurses asking, like, hey, can I get Ollie's room? The people at Children's Hospital, thank you so much. You'll never understand how much the parents appreciate you. And on the 8th floor, any floor, the 9th floor is a heavy one too. But thank you for what you're doing. I wish I could communicate it deeper than just the countless lunches and Starbucks gift cards I would try to get to you guys. But thank you. Thank you for all the people that have prayed for us. We do have a long road ahead of us. Like I said, we're still doing doctor's visits, but every day gets better and better. If you are a follower of Jesus, I would love your prayer, because I think that is the reason we get to tell the story the way we get to tell it today. But with all that being said, man, there's been a lot.
Before we transition,
Yeah.
I just want to say it's cool from the outside, who's someone who's living outside the state. I didn't even know you personally at the time, but just to like watch a man who's trying to love God, love his wife, love his family, and figure that all out in the most messy situation when we're talking about the life and death of our kids. So just to see you wrestle with that honestly, and it's just, we don't get a lot of examples of that, dude. So it was cool. It's been encouraging for me to get to see that. And I think just even seeing your guys' friendship in that, and like, again, talking about like, I think a lot of dudes feel sad and feel lonely. We don't know how to say that. And to see two guys like, bro, I don't care like what it looks like. I'm gonna hug you. Like I'm gonna tell you I love you and I'm here for you. You know what I mean? Like it's just rare. So there's so many layers of beauty in what you went through, but that's definitely some layers of beauty that's like, that sticks out.
Well, and I'll use this opportunity to do a shameless plug for you, man, because the resources that you've devoted your life to developing are equipping men to do that, man. That's something that if I didn't have that relationship with Ben, like that, honestly, man, not even just with Ben, like obviously our whole community, but a lot of that, like our community is built around that style of relationship, man. And like, that's big, bro. I remember telling you, was it last night or whatever? Like the first time me as a man got to feel it all was when I hugged Ben. But he came in because I had to be there for my daughters. I had to be there for my wife. I'm like, Dad, and don't nobody check on Dad, bro. Right? Nobody checks on Dad. And so it was one of those things. As soon as I hugged Big Bro, dude, I collapsed. I was like, all right, can you cover me for like 30 seconds?
Yeah.
So I can just disintegrate and then like stand me up because I got to go protect my family. But it's a relationship, honestly, in like a weird way we tried to do with Footballin. Like the whole point was example, like friendship, community, like sit down, have a beer. We did it in a fun way because, that's the majority of our relationships. But if you stay at the bar here, right, and you don't get into the trenches, I think you're missing what you're talking about. And the whole point of, I think, what we wanted to do, maybe even subconsciously with football in the beginning, was to like, hey, you need people you can do this with. Yeah. Because when it hits the fan, like, don't go in alone, man. Yeah.
So gotta have brothers and stuff. And that's, as Spence said, I mean, I'll say thank you too to all the people that were there, all of our community, all the guys that we've, we've talked about a lot of those guys on this show before. We've joked about them not being able to make black and tans and things like that. But there's a lot of those guys. But there's too many people to thank. But I'll say thank you too, just for the support you showed me as we were supporting them. And it just was. Now y'all know kind of why the show took a quick stop.
Yeah.
We didn't get to tell you, but
A little busy.
But Jared, that's like you're the dad tired thing. I never forget. That's the first book, the book I read before I even knew you. I read the book, and there's just so much good stuff in that book about being a good husband, but being a good friend, being a good dad. And so I'd like to think, whether consciously or subconsciously, I took things out of there during these situations. And so, like Spence said, I think that this show, we're still trying to figure out what season 3 is going to look like exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And we know that, but we do know that we're going to talk football. We're going to talk about being the best husbands we can be, the best fathers we can be, the best friends we can be, disciples of Christ. We're going to maybe even bring Evan back for some good food. I know you
Praise him.
That's honestly why I'm here.
But we want to, really just utilize what this is, man, this friendship, this brotherhood, and encourage people.
Yeah.
Encourage, not just, we have a lot of there's men that watch the show, women, kids, all kinds of, this is not just a show for men.
Yeah.
We want everyone to watch the show, but we want to encourage men, because that's what we're all husbands, we're all fathers, we're brothers. And so excited for the show, excited to have you here because of your knowledge in this field. That's, like I said, you've written a couple books now, but the first one was, kind of how we got linked up through a mutual friend, actually. But I remember Micah was like, we went to a conference and was like, hey, my buddy Jared's going to be down there. He wrote a book called Dad Tired. I'm like, wait, I know that book. And then I was like, we're the only two younger people there. Yeah. And,
that's so funny for you guys to say that.
Well,
okay. All right.
But no, just really excited about what you bring to this show.
Dang, man.
As a friend, first and foremost.
Yeah.
But then your knowledge and wisdom, and I think it's just going to be a really cool dynamic that you bring to the show.
I appreciate it, dude. I don't feel like a dad expert in like I have no idea really what I'm doing. But
Spoken like a true dad.
yeah, but I feel like a dad advocate, like that's what I always tell people, like I feel like a dad, like I really advocate for dads to show up.
And that's what I hope this show moving forward shows people, that this is who we are and what we want to do. And that's be a man of God, be amazing husbands, or at least the best. Because listen, none of us are experts
in anything.
We just are.
Right.
We're not experts. We just are husbands. We are fathers. We are brothers in Christ. We're not experts at those. And now you've written books, so it makes you a little more.
Jared is over there.
I'm a theologian or an alchemist, whatever.
Got all that fancy book learning.
But I just want to say that, like, as we can't really give advice on this show. We just are going to talk about experiences, right? Like the real life things. Because you do a podcast, the Dad Tired podcast, which you do an awesome job of giving it, like bringing people on that are quote unquote experts. Yeah. And we are not claiming to be that. We are. And so we're just going to talk about real life experiences. And that's what that's what I'm excited about for this show. Like sitting down here, talking about the game, and then, being like, oh yeah, by the way, my kid did this, or I got into this with my wife. Like, what do y'all think?
Right.
Help.
Right.
And maybe someone out there takes some help or takes something from it and grows from it as well. So if I start yelling at my kids for stomping around upstairs.
Yeah, last night at dinner when you were like sharing some of the stuff that you're going through as a dad, I'm like, you were sharing some of the struggles, and I'm like, it's just good to hear some. I'm like, your struggle brings me joy.
Is that why you were?
I thought I was the only one wanting to like choke my kid.
I forgot what you said, but you got like really happy about that.
Yeah.
Like, thank God.
Yeah, it's like the third time telling my kids to like go shower, and I'm like, guys, let's go shower, and he's over smiling. What are you smiling at?
He's like,
I just love seeing you struggle.
It feels good to see other parents struggle.
Based on my experience, you have 2 more times of saying that. That's what, bud.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, okay, but everyone wants to really know about football.
Yeah, when I was saying this with the future of the show, is like you're saying we have a lot of like exciting stuff. Like we're committed to doing this season, and we're committed to doing it the best we can. And so this doesn't look like the Pittsburgh Steelers of
last
old.
year.
Last year.
Well, yeah, I mean, first and foremost, the quarterback position.
Yeah,
Kenny Pickett was brought in after me, drafted, went to Pitt. Everyone was super excited, and then you get into last year's preseason because you start talking preseason. So last year the Steelers went. I think they either won them all or the offense looked unstoppable.
Undefeated in the offseason.
They they literally like scored every time they touched the ball, right? I mean that was just what happened. So everyone's like, oh boy, Super Bowl, here we come. I think the only thing, again,
do people? Sorry, I'm going to ask ignorant questions so that people kick.
So football is the sport that.
But in preseason, are people really judging how the season's going to be based on preseason?
In the building.
Okay.
Which when I say in the building, I mean in the facility. The Steelers, not so much. Fan base, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now there are some fans that will watch it and be like, "Listen, it's the preseason, relax."
Right.
But there's some people that are like, we're going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So this year we didn't win a game. We're
overreacting. You would say overreacting.
Preseason is overreaction time for everybody.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, in the building, like of course you want to win games because it's just winning is contagious. You want to do those things. But last year they were like unstoppable. My only, and I would say criticism if we were of the team last year, if you go back and look at it, was I felt like they should have maybe played more.
The starters,
right? the starters, the off. So usually in the preseason, it's like the important thing is to not play T.J. Watt, our best defensive player. Cam Hayward, Minka, you name guys. Most players, most teams don't play their stars because you can't afford for them to get hurt. But it doesn't matter, right? We're talking about it doesn't matter. But we had a younger quarterback and a younger offense. Like I would have liked him to play a little more because you get him some experience. Mm-hmm. But he was super successful. Like first drive, touchdown. Next game, first drive, touchdown. So Coach T pulled him out, and that's his decision, nothing wrong with it. But then we get into the regular season and the offense is just, they can't do anything. And I'm not saying it's because of they didn't get enough reps, but maybe you would have seen some deficiencies. I don't know. But, and that, not just at Kenny. I'm talking about, Kenny was the old quarterback. But just the offense in general. And so, again, as we're talking about things and not knowing, I don't know what happened with the exact thing, what happened with Kenny. But at some point this offseason, they decided to bring Russell Wilson to Pittsburgh. And Russell Wilson has been in the league for a long time. He's a 9-time Pro Bowler, I think, Super Bowl champ, been to 2 Super Bowls, all-pro guy. I mean, he's a veteran leader, presence. They brought him in. And, again, just going off headlines, not knowing they wanted him to compete with Kenny for the job, or was it Russ's job and Kenny was going to be the backup? Don't really know. Again, I'm just speculating. But Kenny is now in Philadelphia, where he's probably the backup in Philly, maybe the third guy, I don't know. But the reports were he didn't want to compete for the job here. And again, this is me.
Right, you don't have any inside information.
I have no insight.
Yeah.
I'm just going
People
off
probably think, like, oh, you know it.
And I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I could read a newspaper like everyone else.
Yeah.
Well,
you're a big newspaper guy.
Yeah. What year is it?
And so, but he's, so now anyway, he is now gone, and Russ is in here, and now they also have Justin Fields, who was 2 similar quarterbacks, but 2 very different in the sense that they're both very athletic. They can do a lot with their legs. Russ is a little bit older, so no offense, Russ, you're just not quite as fast or as elusive as Justin, because Justin's younger. But just kind of 2 similar but different quarterbacks, and so it's just a very unique situation now. They've got a veteran presence now at the quarterback position, which is what they want. But now the question, like the big debate in Pittsburgh, is like, who is it?
Yeah, I was going to ask. 'Cause I flew into Pittsburgh. What's your guys' pulse on the fan base here? Like, what are the fans feeling about what's happening right now in preseason?
I think that's tough, man, because Justin Fields has gotten more reps, right? So he's been out there, and so it's proven. And
because Russ was hurt.
Right. But even against the Lions, again, you don't want to risk it. It seems to me that they're going to go out the gate with Russ.
For sure. I mean, I shouldn't say for sure, like I have insight. I think it was always Russ's job. I do. I know that Coach T talked about a competition, this, that, and the other. It was probably like, all right, Russ, there's a 75% chance you're getting the job.
It's yours to lose?
Yes. Even if Justin plays really well, that 75, it could have kind of gotten back to level playing ground, I think it was always going to be his. He wanted a veteran guy in there. The unique thing about what I think where it could get tricky this offseason or this season is the fan base right now is I don't know if it's split, but there's definitely some Fields guys, because what you see from Justin is you see a guy that has avoided sacks like crazy, where he's got 2 or 3 guys hanging on him.
He's quick.
He's strong. He's big. He's fast. He can run. He can make throws on the run. Russ can definitely do some of that moving and can create those legs, no doubt about it. But he's going to sit in the pocket because it's just what he does a little more, and he's going to big play action pass guy. So Fields is going to create those big he almost got him. So you have some fans that are like, they want Justin, they want that kind of elusive, let's run it, and then you've got the guy who's probably going to be the starting throw. My concern is if Russ struggles, that Justin fan base is going to start to kind of grow, and they're going to be, it happened. We saw it last year. Mitch Trubisky was the starter. As soon as he starts doing bad, they're chanting for Kenny, and then Kenny struggles, they start chanting for Mitch. It's just when you have 2 guys, it can be tricky. But I know Coach T can handle it. But it's just going to be it's going to be a unique situation as the season unfolds. Now, if Russ plays great and there's never a time for that, then great. But every quarterback, every great player, I don't care, the greatest ones have situations where it's like, man, it wasn't good.
But yeah, because if you're getting a new coordinator in there, you also want to see how your guys respond to that dude. How is he using his strengths, and is that something that? And you have to forgive my ignorance. But at this point in time, I'm sure you guys are used to it. Is that something in which you bring a coordinator in with their offense, or hey, I need you to learn the way we do things here?
I've been a part of both. I've been a part of coordinators come in and try and bring theirs in, and then ones where the coordinator learns the offense. This one, I don't know because I haven't been in the building. I assume that it's his offense and Arthur Smith's.
Which one do you prefer as a player?
Well, it depends on how many guys you have. If you've got the system and everybody's there and they all know this offense, and one new guy comes in and tries to change all this, that's tough. Yeah. You feel like you'd want one guy to change, not 30 guys to change. But again, he's got all new quarterbacks. He's a different, he's a big run game guy, loves the tight end, which I would like. I think Pat Freiermuth's our tight end. I think he could have a really big year this year because I think they'll utilize him more. I think the play action game will be huge because you're going to be running the ball. I think in the draft they went O-line, strong, dominant guys that can be physical up front. Again, we haven't seen a lot of it in the preseason, but I anticipate a lot of play action. I think that's where Russ can really, benefit. Great play action guy, loves to go down the field. You got Pickens. I think that's going to be the interesting thing is who's number 2. I know there's still questions about Ayuk. Is he going to have a chance to come here?
Are there still questions?
There are still because he's not signed in San Fran.
He didn't?
Not yet. So
how much? Finish that thought. But one of the thoughts on that is how much does a quarterback have a say in the offense? Like for Russ, a veteran coming in.
I don't know Arthur Smith, but there might be a good coordinator should come in and be like, hey, this is what we do. And if like a veteran, if you have a veteran guy, like in Russ, where he'd be like, oh, this is cool. I've done this before. What do you think? And there should be collab. Yeah. They should work together.
And you build it around a style of
usually that's off of the coordinator. Now if he has an offense designed for Russ, and then you have a guy come in that you might add some different things because Justin is such a good runner. Yeah. You can utilize some of that as well. But I'm guessing it's like I said, I don't know Arthur at all, but I know what he likes to do from just watching games. Right. And so again, I think the play action will be huge because you're running. You got Najee, Warren when he gets healthy.
He's a beast.
My concern is what's behind George at wide receiver.
I have no
idea.
idea.
A couple slot guys. Yeah. Got some smaller guys that can do some really cool things. But you got rid of Deontay Johnson.
Yeah. Well, that was a one-for-one trade you was telling me.
I think there might have been something else involved. But I'm sure that the Niners would have done that right now.
Yeah.
But again, that's just
you think they would have went.
I think
they would have went a one-for-one DJ with Ayuk.
I think it would have helped. It might not have been. There might have been other things involved, but I think it would have helped.
Oh, for sure.
But anyway, so it'll be interesting to see it happen. I'd like, again, if I'm going to critique the preseason, and I got to watch. I try to just watch the starters when they are in. So it's hard to know everything. This last game, Russ played one series and they went and scored in 4 or 5 plays, and that's awesome. Yeah. But to me, that's such a small sample size. And one of them was a 30-yard pass and I think a 30-yard run. Well, so 2 of those plays were huge.
And this is not to take away from the play calling or the execution of it, because I was extremely happy with what I saw. But they also started on the 40 because of this new kickoff.
Because that new kickoff rule. And so it's just, I don't know. I would have liked to see a little bit more, but I asked for that last year too.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll
needy.
go on a streak. I am so needy. I need to see more.
I want to watch more football.
But
Yeah.
I think you're going to live as finishing up the preseason. I think you're going to live and die with your defense, which
Yeah.
is what it's always been around here. You got guys that are studs in TJ and Cam and Minka, and I think JPJ is coming on well on the outside, really learning and growing. And there's other guys. I don't want to leave anybody out because there's some new guys. Peyton in the inside. I think Alex is outside. Obviously, still re-signed Alex, and then Herbig outside, who's doing some amazing things.
Honestly, dude, with Herbig and this
Patrick Queen.
yeah,
I think
dude,
that's
talk about
huge.
that one for a second.
That's a huge one. You go from a rival Baltimore to here, and the dude's a stud. Like I think that's gonna be one of the biggest additions to this team. I mean, of course it is, but like that's gonna be. I'm excited to see how that one plays out.
I remember when that happened. I was like, hey man, and I wasn't super familiar. I remember the name because obviously you play Baltimore twice a year.
Right.
I'm like, hey man, like, is that what do you think that's gonna do? And you're like, oh, he's a problem. He's a problem.
He is a problem.
Like he's gonna be that.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be. You have to account when you have to account for a dude like that.
Yeah.
Like then that's one less guy that's on TJ or
Yeah.
like it just.
Well,
I don't know.
And this is all wishful thinking, right? And that's what you do before the season starts. But I think was Peyton Wilson is the
Peyton, I think that's the new guy.
and then Roman Wilson, that's the dude.
That's the receiver.
Okay, yeah. So
but he's been hurt, so we don't know what he's capable of doing.
But I think the linebacker, man, he's from NC State. I think that dude has the potential to be something serious. And Herbig is already showed his cards that he's going to be a complete animal if he can stay healthy.
Well, the thing about that is you can have just 3 outside guys. Like you can have Alex, TJ, and him because he can just bounce around.
And then dude, if you think about it though, I'm getting excited thinking about it. You think about and you got Minka back there.
Yeah.
Just
all
covering
pro.
the rest of the field.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. I think this is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to the first game is in Atlanta, which is where our coordinator was the head coach last year. So that's going to be cool. And then week 2 in Denver, where Russ just came from.
Come on now.
I mean, thank you, Denver, for paying. I don't know if you know, so Denver paid Russ $8 million to go away, which is okay. 9-time Pro. I mean, I don't know his stats. 9-time Pro Bowl, Super Bowl, and we're like, okay, we'll take him.
Yeah, seriously.
Thank you. And so he goes week 2 back to Denver. So it's going to be some really cool stuff. So I'm excited for the season.
It's a revenge game, bro. You never had that
It'll
opportunity.
be back-to-back weeks.
I
You got
know.
the OC revenge game.
I know who's doing this. Dana White. Who's doing the schedule? Like, come
Now
on,
we're
man.
talking my language.
Yeah, there you
we
go.
can get into some fighting.
So football and fam. Jared is a huge UFC fan.
Big UFC fan.
Yeah. Big fan of the Bible and violence. This guy over there. Loves the Old Testament.
One in the same.
Everybody be dying.
Yeah, huge UFC guy.
Thanks for being here, Jared. Thanks for being a part of the family.
Oh, dude, I feel honored, man. I'm excited to dive into the Steeler world too.
Yeah, it's a good
Is that
one.
how you say it?
Steelers.
Steelers world.
Steelers Nation.
Steelers Nation.
Don't worry. If you get it wrong, they will correct you.
Okay.
All right. Well, hey, we appreciate you guys. Excited for this new season, like always. If you're not already, go ahead and follow at Footballin with Ben on Instagram. Stay up to date on what we're doing. Give Dad Tired a follow as well. And we will see you guys next time.
See you when you see it, or see you another time.
Do you remember how to do it, Ben?
Oh, sorry.